So the homesteaders of old and the pioneers knew the importance of staying hydrated. And many of them also knew the importance of gloves, which I could not find, but that was the last bale, so it's okay. Nowadays we have tons of energy drinks. So there's Gatorade, I don't even know all of the different brands and names out there that are supposed to help us replenish and not get dehydrated. However, they also have a lot of ingredients that if you care about your health and if you're homesteading, you don't want to be consuming, you'd rather have something homemade. So as we look back to the pioneers and even further back, colonial times, they had drinks that went beyond just plain water, because when you've been sweating, especially doing things like hay, because it's done in the middle of summer and has to be done especially before nightfall, dew count, or if you've got rain coming, I swear it always feels like it's the hottest days of the year that you end up doing hay on. But you want to be able to replenish, especially getting things in, because when you're doing a lot of sweating, you're sweating out calcium and potassium, and plain water doesn't actually replace those things. So today we are going to make an old-fashioned drink aptly called Haymaker's Punch, sometimes referred to as switchel or even ginger water. And specifically, this is one that you will remember, my Laura Ingalls Wilder fans, that Laura talks about in the books that Ma made for them during the summer months. So this is a really easy and old-fashioned drink, and there's lots of different variations. We'll kind of talk through that. If you want a printable version of this, you can grab the link beneath this video and go over to my blog and grab that. But our first ingredient is apple cider vinegar. Now this is my homemade raw apple cider vinegar, which is something they definitely would have had in the colonial days, but you could really use any type of raw fruit vinegar that you wanted. So I'm just gonna be doing a quart-sized jar right now for today. So I'm gonna be doing a 1/4 cup of the apple cider vinegar. And raw apple cider vinegar has not only lots of great properties in there, oh, got a little bit of the mother in there, see that? Which is just fine, it'll settle at the bottom. But this has a lot of great properties in it, and because it's raw, it's got a lot of probiotics, which is actually going to help with our gut health and overall health and immunity. But we need to add something sweet to this, because most of us don't like just to drink apple cider vinegar. I know some people like sour drinks, but I like a little bit of sweetener with this. And the sweetener is going to also help, when you're doing a lot of sweating, it's going to help to replace some of the potassium if you are using something like molasses. So this is blackstrap molasses. This would definitely be something that they would have had in colonial times. Also maple syrup. Here I actually have, this is maple syrup that's been boiled down and into maple sugar. And even brown sugar, because obviously brown sugar still has quite a bit of molasses in it, especially if it is the dark brown sugar. Honey was something that would also be used, so kind of depend on what that they happen to have on hand as far as the sweetener in varying parts of the country, but all of these were different sweeteners, so you can play around with them depending on what you have on hand and what you like flavor-wise. But I'm going to be adding to this a 1/4 cup. I'm going to do a little bit of the blackstrap, and then I'm also going to do a little bit of the brown sugar. So I'm just going to do a tablespoon of the brown sugar, and then I'm going to do a tablespoon, approximately, of the blackstrap molasses. Ooh. And we're just going to get that dissolved into our vinegar here. It's going to take a little bit longer for the blackstrap molasses to incorporate. Now we are going to add ginger. So for this volume, I'm just gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. You can also use grated fresh. And interestingly enough, yes, ginger is something that the pioneers had. If you go and read that blog post where I talk about Ma Ingalls' recipe and where Laura references it in the book, ginger is something that has been used for a long time, first in Europe and brought over, but it was something that they definitely had even in colonial times, obviously with trade. Majority of them weren't growing it themselves, but ginger was added without the heat because they didn't want to drink a hot tea. but ginger was added because it can help warm the body. Ginger is considered a warming herb and also helps to aid digestion as well as taste good. It also helps with circulation, like lots of other good properties for ginger. So we're going to get that all dissolved here. And you can kind of do the sweetener to taste. It's where you like it as far as sweetness goes. And then we're going to dilute that down with water. Oh, I had a little bit of molasses that didn't get completely incorporated there. So we'll just stir that up. There we go. So this is something that when you're out in the hayfields, likely will have in the shade. Back in the colonial days, if they had a spring house, but it's good at room temperature. I prefer mine cold, so it's something that I will store in the fridge. But now you have got a great natural electrolyte and probiotic drink that you can have during the summer months without any high fructose corn syrup or fake food dye. Oh, that's good. The ginger gives it just like a little bit of a kick, along with the apple cider vinegar. I think I might throw in just a tad bit more sweetener, but I'm not sure. I think I might just keep this batch just for me and make another one for the kids that has a little bit more sweetener, because I have to confess their palate is a little bit pickier than mine, but all of us end up helping in the hayfield when it comes time, so they need their own version as well. That's actually really good. And interestingly enough, I probably should make up a jar for my dad. If you saw that video where we did a tour with him of his old homestead and talked about the Great Depression living and how he lived growing up without electricity or running water, definitely go and check that out. Some great tips for old-fashioned living. But he also happened to turn 84, and do you know where I found him on his birthday? He had loaded over 50 square bales by himself from the field on a flatbed truck, backed it into the barn, and by the time I caught him to tell him happy birthday out at the barn, he had stacked all of it except 13 bales. So, of course, I grabbed a pair of gloves and helped him stack the very last 13 bales. And after that, I made him drink some water because I did not have any of this Haymaker's Punch or Switchell with me. And I told him he needed to go and take a break because it was a very hot day and I could tell he was tired. And do you know what he told me? Sorry, sis, I gotta go and work on the skidder instead. So, I hope that I can do half of what that man does on my 84th birthday.